Yeah. All right. Hello, my name is Carissa Doherty. I'm from Exceptional ND. Today I have here Dr. Dick Thom, and I would just love to pick his brain on lots of things, but um, where do we start? I actually was wondering about personally. I was wondering about the financial piece because before we got on the interview from yesterday, which was amazing, you talked a lot about how naturopathic students owe a lot of money at the end, and the financial onus on the profession, the individual, is crushing. And I know you talk a lot about the theory behind naturopathic medicine and biological medicine, and how you like the theory behind it. But the kids, the students that are coming out, the new grads that are coming out are lovely. You know, they have definitely holes in their education, but they have a ton of debt. So I was wondering if I could get your opinion on that.
Absolutely. One of the one of the biggest challenges within the naturopathic profession, or in all honesty, anywhere in the medical profession now, even allopaths or acupuncturists or massage therapists or whatever, is the model of one-on-one, which is the standard model of medicine that's been there since time began, I guess, is unfortunately no longer, in my opinion, financially viable, because you can't charge enough money for the patient, especially the patients in our profession or doctors in our profession who, and depending the state or the province where you are, who are not insurance based. Somehow the profession seems to think that if you have insurance, that somehow that's the saving grace. I think it's the doomed grace, personally. I many years ago took insurance, and then after a few years did a very close cost analysis and realized that seeing a patient on insurance was costing me money. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to quit insurance, and I'm just going to do 100% cash based. At that time, I lost 80% of the practice, because people say, well, I'm not going to afford it. I said, well, I kept 20% of the people who were more interested in their health than they were in who was going to pay for it. And so in that 80% of the time that I lost, I went out and I marketed myself by doing presentations. Stood in front of people. I told them what was different about why you should come to, why you would benefit by coming to see me, et cetera, et cetera. So this won't be the discussion about, is insurance viable or not. It's about what is your time worth, and how much time do you want to spend dealing with insurance companies. And some people are more than happy to deal with that hoop, thinking that that will provide them with what's of interest. However, my approach when somebody asks me about insurance, I'll ask them if they have car insurance, or if they drive a car, first of all. And they say, yeah. And I said, well, do you have car insurance? Yes. Why do you have car insurance? Well, in case you get in an accident. Well, okay, but do you ever get your car tuned up? Do you ever put gas in your car? Do you ever change the oil? Does your insurance cover that? Oh, no. Okay, what about your house? Do you own a house? Yes, or an apartment? Do you have insurance on that? Yes. Why do you have insurance on that? Has your house ever burned down? Have you ever needed to use it for a flood or anything? No. Well, why do you have insurance then? Do they basically paint your house? Do they do repairs? Oh, no, they don't do that. Okay, so you get it. So health insurance isn't for everyday maintenance. In my opinion, health insurance is for catastrophic events. If you have a motor vehicle accident, if you have an unfortunate, if you have a heart attack, if you have cancer, if you have some type of devastating illness, in those cases, health insurance is absolutely a viability to me. So what I try and impress upon people is it's priorities. Is your health a priority, or is your health not a priority? And people will say, well, it's a priority, especially when they don't have it. Now it's really a priority. It's harder to convince a teenager that their health is a priority. Even though yesterday I had two, a 14 and a 16-year-old. I had the parents of those kids who are basically going to be going to the Olympics. I said, do you think they're interested in their health? They said, well, they're interested from the aspect that it'll improve their health. Well, are they willing to pay for it? Well, the Olympic Committee pays for it. I said, well, what if the Olympic Committee didn't pay for it? Would they be interested in doing that? And in this case, they said, well, we think so. I said, well, you think so? Well, what's going to happen when they're aged out? They're 25, let's say. It's like, oh, now you're too old for the Olympics. Are they still going to be interested in health? So, I mean, that's kind of the discussion that's happening. So anyway, all that saying, in other words, the goal is from how do you become financially successful, whether you do an insurance model or not. Insurance model is just going to add extra overhead to your cost of doing business. And so what we're looking for, what is the return on investment? So you've invested all this money into an education. I don't know how much it is in Canada, but in the United States, we're looking at easily over $300,000 by the time somebody graduates in the U.S. By the time you put housing and live in a different city in 4 years, all that stuff, and people think it's a student loan. The student loan isn't your money. The student loan belongs to the government, and you're gonna have to pay it back. And the interest is not like 1%. We're talking a high interest rate. In this country, presently, the president is forgiving some student loans, but those are only to people who paid every single month for like 10 or 15 years. Then you'll forgive it. So it's not like, oh, I'm going to graduate and suddenly my loan's going to be forgiven. No, you're going to have to pay the loan back. So you start off with, and for many people, that loan becomes higher than their mortgages. They're going to buy a house, which is also becoming difficult because of interest rates. So it's like, okay, so let's forget the model. So how are we going to make enough money, first of all, to really help people? What I really believe needs to happen is that people need to have a source of income that isn't 100% based on you personally. And the best way to do that is to have other services within your clinic. And I don't mean you have a massage therapist in there that you're renting a room to, or you have a PT or a chiro or somebody else who rents a room. Renting a room is like, oh yeah, okay, so you get a couple $100 a month, 500. It's like, that's not what we're talking about. I'm talking about how can you literally make $1,000 an hour is what I think you should be looking at. Like, how is that feasible?
I heard
It's okay, so we need something different here. We need something going on that's different. And it doesn't mean you put $1,000 in your pocket. It means your clinic is earning $1,000 an hour, which includes you as the primary doc or the primary source. But also in the clinic, we're going to need accessory help. Depending on the state or province that you're in and the legalities of it, I think the best person to hire is a medical assistant. A medical assistant who's gone through training, because the medical assistant will have had, in their training, will have had some front desk information. They'll have some training. They'll be able, they'll have some stuff, little bit about some bookkeeping, and they can enter fees and all that kind of stuff. But in addition, they can also do vitals. Depending on the state or province, they may be able to do a blood draw, or they can do an injection, depending on whatever the law is. So in other words, they'll be able to, let's say you do a B12 injection and charge $20. Well, the injection probably costs you 50 cents and the needle, so that's a couple bucks. So you're not doing it. You're paying this MA $20, $25 an hour or whatever you pay them. If they do 2 or 3 of these a day, they paid their whole salary for the whole day. That type of thing. But more importantly is, can you get an MA to do these, what I mentioned in the seminar yesterday, auxiliary services, specifically in the arena of diagnostics. So from a diagnostic perspective, having something like a body comp analysis or a body, being able to evaluate somebody's body comp, which is, what did we just looked at it? And I'm going to say it's a $2,000 investment to do that. Per se, because the people who just attended my course just were given 25% off to actually, because they attended the course and because we promoted it, the company is giving them 25% off to the people, specifically to the people who attended. So they're going to be able to make an investment of a couple of $1,000s they're going to be able to do this test, which takes 5-8 minutes to do. You can do it on every single patient, per se. You can charge them, let's say, $50 to do that. It's your MA is doing it. It takes 5 minutes of her time. She could do 3 an hour, 4 an hour easily to do that. So theoretically, she could make a couple $100 an hour just doing that aspect of what's going on. So the aspect of that's one of the pieces. Okay, so now you get the information that you as a private care get the information. So what are we going to do with the information? We're going to be able to raise the level of our interaction, not just by guessing that this person is drinking enough water, their body fat, their to muscle mass is the right or the wrong proportion, but more importantly, what is the level of toxicity they had simply by looking at intra to extracellular water. One simple number. A number I didn't mention yesterday is also phase angle, which actually tells me how fast you're aging. Per se, it's like, oh, you're prematurely aging. Is that what you want to do? It's like, you want to know why we're going to do some of these therapies so you don't prematurely age. I can look at your bone mass, so you don't have to go and get a DEXA scan all the time every 2 years. We can do this every 3 months if we want and tell you whether you're improving your bone mass. So in other words, we're going to get information that is being paid to your office that you don't have to send to somebody else to pay, that then the patient doesn't have the money to spend in your office, because once we come up with our diagnosis, we now come up with specific treatments to that specific patient. And in our clinic, therefore, we say, oh, it's very evident from, and it's just one piece of equipment. We do 4 different types of diagnostic things. We say your lymphatic system is really where your problem is. And if you have a patient with chronic illness, I don't need a test to tell you. I guarantee you, if I test them, I guarantee it, I'll tell you that your lymphatic system is congested. It's 100% of chronically ill patients. I've done it for years and years, and I've never seen a patient who doesn't have it. Therefore, I'll say, we're going to have you do the flow presso. The flow presso is a $10,000 investment. It's lymphatic. There isn't, with rare exceptions, there's not one patient who wouldn't benefit from it. Maybe if you had a blood clot disorder, or if you're pregnant, or if you have a congestive heart failure. So in other words, there's a small window. It's like, okay, those people are not good candidates. 90% of your patients will be great candidates to do it. You'll charge them, let's say, $125, I think I heard yesterday, per session. The MA does this. You don't do it. You're not even seeing the patient to do these things. You don't see them to do the test. You don't see them to do the test or to do the treatment per se. And in addition, on the way out the door, instead of sending you to full script, we have our online we have our medicinary right here, which is like, oh yeah, it's like, well, you mean somebody has to manage it. Well, it's called the MA. The MA manages it. In our office, we have our front desk person who's doing all this. Yes, we have a couple of nurses because we have a massive clinic per se, but theoretically, one person could do everything that I just said, and you haven't even seen this person. So this person is then, because you made the recommendations, so they're coming in, maybe they come once a week for a flow presso or some other type of lymphatic treatment or some other therapy. Every patient needs electrons, some form of electrons. Every patient needs more oxygen. So maybe we have them do 2 things, or the nervous system is, so we have a sound bed. We'll go on the sound bed for 45 minutes. That's $65 or whatever. The costs are determined by you individually, those types of things. So in other words, it's not uncommon for our patients who live locally to come almost every week for a couple of different therapies. I never even see them. I never even see them in the office, but they're bringing money into the clinic. And that's how ultimately the goal is, how do we do enough of these different types of services with one additional person, not you, who is the MA. In some cases, it'll be an RN. If you do IV therapy, and people somehow think IV therapy is like, oh, this is a cash cow. It's not. I think IV therapy is not a good way to do it. It's a lot of work. It's more liability. You need labs. It's like, do these other things that are, there's less of an issue as far as what they have to do from a liability perspective. IVs are fine. IVs, I mean, we do IVs in our clinic every day, but So once again, we have a massive clinic and we have a fairly high turnover of patients, and many of our patients are coming in for we call extended stay. They come for 1 week or 2 weeks. They come into the clinic, they're there from 8 o'clock in the morning till 5 at night. They're doing all these different therapies. And for that, they're paying $1,500 a day to be there, just that one person. So you do that, and you do other people coming in maybe for just an IV or a Flowpresso or a sound bed or a MagnaPulse or a PMF or an EWatt for oxygen. So we got, or we can do. How many more things do we got going on in there? We have about 15 different therapies that are available in the clinic that somebody could do. Some people will come for one. The extended stay people do them all. We do multiple things per day, and it's like even if we do 15 different things, the price is the same. It's not like a la carte. If you're coming for one day, it's a la carte. If you're coming for the whole day, it's like we'll get as many treatments in, and that way we can do in one day. So you have one or two of those type people, but you need a larger clinic. So that's not how new people are starting. They're starting with one person. The MA is your front desk person answering the phone, and people always say, "Well, I can't afford it." So my response is, you can't afford not to have this person. This is the person who's going to make you the money, not you, because you're going to talk to a person and charge them for an hour or an hour and a half, however long, talk to them, and you'll say, well, that's $250. Then you're done. Now you sell them some supplements. Maybe you're going to tell them, well, you need a GI effects stool test. I said, yeah, but that money doesn't go to you. That money goes to Genova. Are you going to do a Dutch test? Are you going to do, some other salivary cortisol test or whatever you're going to, a lab, just blood test? Well, those are important. But if you have tests in office, which is what we have, so we do a BIA, we do a Nerve Express, which to me is absolutely the most amazing test that anybody should do. And once again, we got a great deal on that for our participants. It's like $3,000. They're getting it for like 1,500. It's just like, because of negotiation for what's going on. You see 5 patients and you pay for the damn thing. Per se. The information you get, you will not get any other way unless you're paying somebody else to do the test for you. This is all money in office, in house, goes in our bank account. We pay off things. And most people who buy this stuff it's within 6 months, it's all paid off. Because now comes the education piece. It's like, why? So now your patients you've seen for 15 years. Well, why are you suddenly doing this? It's going to add a piece to the puzzle that I haven't been able to get. It's a pretty easy sell. Now, and I asked our front desk person, I said, what do we, he says, this is just it. You come here, then you do it, period. There's no question. You can't, well, I don't want it. Say, well, then you don't come here, because without this stuff, I can't help you. So it's like, that aspect is sort of all or nothing. So in my office, to do all our tests, meet me, do all the stuff, it's $1,000 first visit, just for me. But then we'll do we'll come back. If you're just doing the test, which nobody does, it's probably like $550 or $450 or something like that, if we add them all up. So we give them a package deal. It would be more than that if you did it individually, but the package deal is, I'm going to say, maybe it's 500. Whatever it is, it's the numbers are kind of irrelevant. It's because it's dependent on your situation, your clinic, your overhead, da 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 da. So you have to individualize that. The concept, the whole idea of this is, how do we have additional sources of income that you are not directly involved? That is the key aspect of being able to pay off your debt and actually making a good income for all the efforts of going through med school, all the studies that you've made, all the knowledge that you have. And yes, it never ends. I've been doing this for 50 years, and it's like I still learn stuff. That's why I still work. I mean, I tried to retire 6 years ago, and that didn't go so well. I said, I'm so bored. I said, I need to talk to people. I love talking to people because I think I still have something to offer people. And people always say, wow, nobody's ever told me that, or I didn't know that, or, it's not, I don't offer like, oh yeah, I have the solution, because I don't. I said, I don't know if I have the solution. All I know is what I'm going to do is help you understand your physiology. And the only way I can do that is by using my diagnostics, not a blood test, not a GI effects, not a stool test. That tells me something, but it doesn't tell me how your body responds on an everyday basis to stress. That's what I need to know because that's what your physiology is doing. By adding these tools into the practice, and then we didn't start with everything. It's been built up over time. Obviously, we didn't open the door and said, "Oh, we have $500,000 of equipment in here." It got added over time, so people start. The people who just did my course, I would say probably 80% of them are buying the body comp analysis and the Nerve Express. And I said, that's going to pay for itself. I guarantee you within a year, and I guarantee you, you will increase your income by 25 or 30,000 at least without you doing anything else. You don't have to do anything else but you'll have an MA and you'll pay that person and you'll still make an additional $25,000 a year. In time, it'll probably increase it more. That's how you're going to pay your debt off. And that's why not after 3 years or 5 years, you're so disappointed. You feel you can't make a living. You've worked way too hard. Patients are disgruntled. They're unhappy because they don't seem to get better. They say, I pay all this money for supplements, and it's been 6 months, and so they leave. Actually, the most common is most patients leave after 3 visits because they're not seeing anything, because you haven't even been able to really understand their problem. But by using the diagnostics that I do, on the first visit, you either get it or you're probably not a good patient, good match, because I'll tell you what your problem is in the first visit. And I don't need to send out $1,000 worth of tests and wait you to come back in 3 weeks to tell you, oh, you have dysbiosis, or you have SIBO, or you have XYZ. I mean, I can tell you within 2 hours whether that's probably what your problem is by doing it in an office. And all that money stays in the office. That's the key. And yeah, full script is convenient. People say, oh, it's a lot of work to run a medicinary. Now, when you have somebody who knows what they're doing, and you have a hot to trot front desk person, which we definitely have, who manages this whole friggin' kit and caboodle, for both Dr. Grobot and myself, and it runs incredibly well. And people are happy. People love to come there. They really do. That's what you want. You want people coming. You want to motivate, inspire, and empower people when they leave the office, because once they leave with that component, they're asking you, so when do I come back? You're not telling them. They're asking you. It's like, when do I make my next appointment? I know I need this stuff. What do I need to do next? And what you are is you're the guide to be able to do that. That's how in 5 years from now, or 5 years after one starts practicing, and 8 years, 10 years, 15 years, it's like, I love what I'm doing. These people are getting better. They're feeling better. They love to come here. They don't, they say, well, I'll go to my medical doctor and I'll get my blood tests and stuff because that's on the insurance, which is fine. Get whatever you want. Bring me all your tests. I mean, I don't have to order them. Your insurance will pay for them, per se. I'll tell you what they mean more so than what your GP or whoever's doing the test will tell you. So from the business perspective, I would say that's the biggest part that's missing for somebody who leaves school, or even has been out of school for years and is struggling to pay off their debt, or pay off their overhead, or pay their salary, their staff. So they were going to this idea of telemedicine. Telemedicine is one-on-one medicine. It's great sometimes, but you got to get people you got to get people in front of you. You got to get people that you can do these tests. So, people say, do you do, so no, I don't do a first visit, on telemedicine. You have to come in my office. I need to see you. I need to know your blood pressure. I need to do all these tests. And you're going to see why you're going to be coming back in 3 months, even if you live, because I have patients this week who actually live in Huntsville, per se. They're in my office in Arizona. It's like, because they can't get any of the services I'm doing in Ontario, anywhere near where they are. Yeah. So they're coming to Arizona to get that information. And I said, you'll be back in 3 months because we're going to recheck you. They're going to come back in 3 months. And it's like, they're paying American fees with Canadian dollars. It's like, okay, is it a priority? Yeah, when your health sucks, you're willing to pay for it, because when you don't have it, as a young woman, this patient is, it's not a bad idea to say, this investment is the best investment I could ever make in my health, because invariably they've gone here and there. And as anybody who's practiced for a while knows, that we're often not the first blind. It's like, I've heard I'm the 18th doctor that I've ever seen. Said, well, I hope I'm not, I hope you don't find you need a 19th, at least from the aspect of, I'll try and share with you what I think your problem is. Whether I can help you or not, I don't know. Not until you start doing the work. It's not what I'm going to do, it's what you're going to do. And what I can do is I can be your guide. I can be, the person who shares with you the areas, always talking about physiology. I always talk about biochemistry. And so I always say, like we talked about yesterday, your skin isn't your problem. We're going to try and help you find out why it is a problem. And in order to truly get XYZ better, whatever their complaint is, I said, these are the types of things that are going to need to happen. This is the information that I have starting off. In 3 months, we'll recheck it. We'll see where you're at. We're going in the right direction. I won't have to wait 2 years to repeat your DEXA scan to tell you whether or not your bone density is improving. And you don't have to wait till you're postmenopausal to actually get the test. You can do it at 21 or 25 or 37. It's like we don't need any criteria because somebody's insurance will or won't pay for it, type thing. So everybody is treated the same. Everybody gets the same test. Everybody has the baseline from where we start. Some people are totally depleted. Some people are actually in a pretty good shape. And I said, great, let's keep supporting that. So as you get older, you'll still feel, 20 years younger than when you started. And I take great pride in the fact that my patients have been 20, 30 years. I said yesterday, I think that, my one patient who I've had the longest, 303 visits over 20, 25 years or so. And it's like people always say, well, either you don't know what the hell you're doing, or this patient is pretty dumb because they keep coming 303 times. I said, no, this person is 25 years older. Now she's 60s or 70s. It's like, do you think she has the same problems now that she had when she was 45? She doesn't talk about her 45-year-old problems. She talks about her will and her grandkids and how can she travel and yada, yada. So it's different conversations. And that's a whole other seminar that I do on the 5 phases of healing that are required to basically maintain patients over the lifetime. And as long as you continue to practice, depending the age you are and you're starting, you should go in with the idea that this patient is going to be a patient for as long as you're practicing. So if you're 40 years old, you plan on practicing for 20 years, those patients should be here with you for 20 years. There's no reason they shouldn't be with you when they're motivated, inspired, and empowered every single visit. And what you're becoming, you start off as their physician and who is a dictator, and you end up as their trusted advisor and mentor, per se. And that's what they come for. They come because, you don't need to tell them to do a castor oil pack. You don't need to tell them to drink water or, they should eat various color. I mean, we don't talk about any of that stuff with these patients who've been 20, 25 years. In fact, on Monday of this week, I had 2 consecutive patients. One I had seen 167 times, and the other one was like 192 times. So as I looked at it, I said, oh my God, you've been a patient since 2000. This is 24 years ago I first saw you. It's like, wow, you think you'd be getting better by now. She laughed. She said, well, we're not talking about that anymore. She says, that's not what I'm talking to you about, which is exactly what happens. It's fun. It's really fun, which is like, why would you want to not go to work when it's fun every day? And I just love to talk to these people because it's like, I feel it's like people walking into my house and we sit on the couch and have a conversation about something. So in those cases, it's, it's about their health or something specific related to it. Or, sometimes they're only coming once a year, but sometimes they're coming, 3 times a year, 4 times a year. Or when we're starting off in the first couple of years, they're probably coming every, 6 weeks or so. So they come, 6 or 7 times in 1 year. So the combination of that, in theory, if you have 300 patients, 300 different patients, different aspects from they come once a year, twice a year, etc., you will have more than enough patients to be wildly successful. I guarantee you'll pay off your student loans. I guarantee you'll pay off your house. I guarantee you can take vacations. I guarantee you don't have to work 5 days a week because you're going to have other people doing the work for you, and you'll love what you're doing. That's what the goal should be, and I think has to be in our profession. And the other thing that will do is it'll separate us from functional medicine doctors or other people, not perhaps so much in Canada, but here in the States. In Arizona, it's big. what do? Do PRP, they do Botox, they do facial aesthetics. I mean, it's like, well, that's what did you go to naturopathic school to do that for? It's like, really? It's like, okay, so somebody's looking better on the outside because you can charge them a lot of money. Why don't you try and figure out what their real problem is? And it's like, yeah, those are great services, but really, is that how you really think that, you have a specialized training that is unique to our profession? Like, I almost feel we're wasting it because, there's like, you can go to anybody to do Botox if you really want. It's like, how complicated is sticking a needle in somebody and injecting, a few cc's of Botox? It's like, really? That's what your medical training is all about? I think you try and figure out what their problem is and really sit with it and really enjoy it. Enjoy the interaction that people have when they're talking to somebody who's interested in their case. And when do I get patients who I get patients I don't no clue what the hell's going on, even with all the tests. I said, but I'm sure was heck willing to try because I know it's about physiology. I know the problem is somewhere your organs are not in homeostasis. We need to try and figure it out. And when we do that, and we'll work as a team to do that, and if you're willing to do your part at home, I'm willing to do my part to help you figure it out, which is something that I've heard many, many times over the years. It's like, why do you keep coming? Because you're the only person who keeps trying and doesn't give up. Said there's no reason giving up because there is a solution. There's no incurable diseases. Every disease is curable when you find the right combination, the right things that how it fits together. Sometimes, the patient unfortunately can't live long enough to figure it out, but it doesn't mean we stop. Quality of life to me is more important than quantity of life. And because I unfortunately treat many stage 4 cancer patients, for them, it's still quality. It's like they would rather have quality for 1 month than quantity of 3 or a year. They're just in misery. And what usually happens is they have a quality until the last couple of weeks, and that just goes downhill. It's like the transition is very quick. So that's how we could. And when you start doing what I believe are these additional supportive therapies that money is paid into your clinic, people will start. So patients come. How do they hear about you? People can't find me. I'm not. And it's like I'm not on the website. I'm not in the clinic. People say, I couldn't find you. I said, that's deliberate. Because if you find me, that means you're really looking hard, per se. Because it means it's coming from somebody who told you about what we do, per se. So that's not what I wouldn't suggest you do that when you're starting off or early in practice, because you need to be found, per se. But I've been doing this for so long that people, I have my own website with basically my name, per se. So people are imagine if they'll search it. I mean, if they just search Dr. Thom in Arizona, they'll probably find me. But it's like, oh, you're not on the website. I said, I know, that's deliberate. I'm not here to promote myself on a website. I'm here to promote myself because somebody told you about what I do, and maybe I can help you, per se. And maybe I can, maybe I can't. I don't know. I don't make any promises, but I can show you what I do know, and I can show you how what you can do for yourself and what a new doc or any doc could do to enhance their own practice and make them a happier doctor, make their patients happier, and that's how the word spreads in your own local community. Some will say, "Oh yeah," because you hear people talking in the bank or the grocery store. It's like they're I always say that you need five raving fans. Those are the people who, when they overhear somebody complaining about a migraine or XYZ or infertility, which has seen increasing incidents, they'll say, I know somebody who I can probably help you. Oh, what? Really? And this is like totally out of the blue. They literally will be standing in a line. This one patient probably just must have sent me 200 different people. And she just, and then they'll say, well, who is this? What do they do? And then her first question is, are you willing to do things for yourself? What are you talking about? Well, this doctor, if you're interested, is going to tell you to do castor oil packs and to drink water. Would you do that kind of thing? Oh no. Okay. Well, I'm not even going to tell you what it is because he won't accept you. So it's like they're sold before they show up. It's like they know they're going to have to do something, per se. So that's why I don't want to be on the website. You know, you're going to find me because somebody told you that you're going to be expected to do something. And in time, when you have a reputation, that's fine. But to build the reputation, you need to step out of the crowd. You need to not do what everybody else is doing. You don't do it by having the lowest fees. You don't do it by having the highest fees. You have fees that can pay your overhead, pay you a good salary, and pay your debt off, buy a house, go on vacation. That's what your fees are, not, oh, that Johnny down the street is charging, $20 less. Well, can you pay your bills if you charge 20? No. Well, then what the hell are you charging $20 less for? You charge what you need to charge to pay your overhead. Don't be foolish thinking money is not the deciding factor. It is the fifth factor in somebody making a decision about whether you'll be their doctor or not. And the fee is the least important thing for people. It really is. Like people say, where's my phone? Why do people buy an iPhone that costs $1,000 when you can buy some other phone that's $500? Why do I have a Mac computer that's $1,000 more than a PC that you could get for $300? Well, because there's a reputation. They're going on reputation. They're going on quality. They're going on a whole bunch of different types of things. That's what people are interested in. And a website doesn't sell you. If you, Getting in front of people is what sells you. They see you. They listen to you talk. You resonate with them or you don't, per se. And if you don't, then they won't want to come anyway. So I would much rather stand in front of somebody or talk to them about, as opposed to reading some bio on a website. Oh, this person is interested in so and so. Everybody's interested in health and that kind of stuff. It doesn't mean anything. It's like, do something different. Stand out in the crowd. That's how you're going to find it. How are you going to do it? In my opinion, is with technology, technology that's over and above what you learned in med school, and will continue to support and prosper. We'll say in time. And yes, it takes a little bit more training. Yes, it takes a bit of an investment, but I guarantee you that's one investment that will pay for itself pretty quickly when you start incorporating the four aspects of business. So you can't just go out, oh, I'm going to pay $2,000 and buy this thing. Well, what are you going to do with it? Like, you don't even know how to plug it in yet. You don't know how to read it. You don't know anything about it. So you better understand why you're going to get it. So you need an administrator component of this. You need the marketing part of this. You need the operations part of this, and you need the leadership part of this. So there's four pillars that you have to satisfy before you go out and even pay $2,000 to buy this amazing piece of machinery that will, guarantee will raise your success with your patients. But somebody listens to this recording and say, oh, I should go and buy one. No, you shouldn't. You don't even know what the hell the thing does. Just because I said you should buy it, that's not a good reason to buy it. That's the worst reason to buy it. Maybe you better find out about it. Like, what could it do? That's why we teach these classes. That's why we're interested in sharing with other doctors who are going to carry this on. To me, that's how our profession is going to rise above the cream that's going to rise to the top. When you get enough people in enough different areas of the country, well, north in the continent really, who are basically doing these things, suddenly patients are starting to look for somebody who does that, who can step out of the crowd, who is not just offering the same type thing that everyone else is, who's sending a lab, or everybody has Lyme disease, or everybody has mold, or everybody has heavy metals. Yeah, some people do have those things, but does everybody? And are you even treating the right thing to start off with? So people to me, are still looking for, what's the solution? The solution is to get the person's physiology working. That's the solution. How are you going to do it? Is the answer. I think you need technology to do it. Energetic medicines I talked about yesterday are essential, but in the seminar we talked about yesterday, I showed you that one BIA person works out 5 times a week. She drinks 4 liters of water. She's been really health conscious, yet she has 0.7 or whatever it was. Yeah. More of her water is outside her cell. I said, you can give her whatever the hell you want. You give her $1,000 worth of supplements, and like 5% of it gets in because of the toxicity. If you don't change that dynamic, what's the sense of giving her all this expensive supplements? She's going to say it doesn't work. So it works, it just can't get into the cell. So you have to know how to get the stuff into the cell. And you have to know, is that what you're really looking at to start off with? So we have a tool within 5 minutes. I can give you something that's going to tell you whether something will work or not, no matter what the remedy is, per se. And that's why when we look at even Hahnemann stuff, Hahnemann did not immediately just, oh, here's the remedy I get. He went and lived with people for 3 days. And he said, you live in a smoky basement. You're not eating the right food. You don't drink any water. You don't get out into the sunshine. He says, I'm not giving you a remedy because it's not going to work. Even Hahnemann said that. So, but people say, oh, just give them a homeopathic remedy and that's all they need. It's like, it ain't what they need. They need to clear the remunctories out before you're going to start to see some benefit. So there's a time and a place to do tests and these other types of tests and to give remedies. So, literally starting off with just natural laws, basic treatment guidelines, makes sense for any patient because if they have a chronic illness without any testing, because you won't know what to do, I feel fortunate because I can really pinpoint the most specific areas, but I can guarantee you, no matter what you do, they need lymphatics, they need electrons, they need oxygen. How are you going to do that? What is that part of every treatment plan? Is what I'll say to somebody in the class. So when you go home, look at your treatment plan. What do you have your patient doing that's going to raise their electrons? By giving them electrolytes. Yeah. They're going to their electrolytes or their electrons? Not really. So it's like, so people start hopefully to think differently how we're going to, and it's not like, oh, you have to have every month a $500 bill to buy supplements. One day that may be helpful, but that's not a very good place to start unless you're doing all these other things which will support basic physiologic needs, because that is really how somebody heals. I told you I talk a long time.
I know, I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you. My sister was gonna go on with you, and I'm like, no, I want it myself because I have a question that I want it, and she's like, oh, I'm gonna ask. No, I want to ask about like the success piece, like, because we have a new grad, and we see the new grads because we're fairly close to the college, and they're crushed. They come out and they're already financially crushed, and now we're telling them you need to get your own dispensary. We're telling them you need to have staff, and they're like, and so I do appreciate that some of that, like we share some of that advice. It's like you got to you have to keep going and go bigger. You have to go bigger. Can't go on the phone. Can't go behind doors. You got to go bigger.
That's absolutely true. You have to. The very first class I taught in business with Andy Boulanger was
I was there
20 years ago.
I was there.
And I remember the very first student who, like 2 weeks before we were going to teach the class, said, I'm in trouble. I've been practicing for 8 years. I've never taken a vacation. I have to live in an apartment. I can't buy a house. And I said, you need to hire somebody. She said, Dr. Thom, you didn't hear what I said. I have no money. I can't pay my debt. I can't pay my loan off. I said, you need to hire somebody. She said, you're not listening. I said, you're not listening. You need to hire somebody to take some of this work off because you've been doing it all, thinking that's how you're saving money, and you're making a huge mistake. She came to the course, started to do some of the changes that were recommended in the class, in the business class, about the 4 pillars I just talked about. And within 8 months said, I took a vacation, I bought a house, I can pay some of my student debt back. I said, yeah, and that's what's going to continue. Now she's really successful because that's like 20 years ago. Good. That's the way you've got to do it. You have to invest. And it's not that you have to invest millions of dollars. You don't have to invest tens of thousands of dollars. You just have to invest in something that's different and find a right staff person. You need help. You can't do it yourself. Running a one-man show, you've already limited your income. You can't possibly, because you're it. You're the only person who's the sole person bringing money into the clinic. That just won't work anymore. I mean, years ago, when I graduated, which is, it seems like an infinity ago, theoretically, everybody in my class went out and started on their own, and nobody thought anything different. It's like you didn't join anybody. You weren't worried about what am I going to do. Just you go out and you're going to, rent a space somewhere, 2 or 3 rooms. You're going to do what you were taught, And so we didn't think about it. Now it's like people say, "Oh my God, I can't possibly afford anything." And then, this person will rent me the room for $100. This person's 150. I think I'll go the 100. It's like, this isn't about cheaper is better. It's like, what do you really, where do you plan on being? What's your vision board? Have you done a vision board? What's your 1 year vision board? What's your 5 year vision board? Do you ever want to have a family, buy a house, go on vacation? Like, if you know, then hell, you don't have to do anything. You just show up or don't. So you show up and you go to work every day, whether you have a patient or not. If you don't have a patient, you basically get on the phone. You start saying, you do what I did. I phoned every church and I said, anybody ever do any presentations there? It's like, I'm willing to come and talk to you. It's like, what are you talking about? Tell me. I'll talk about anything you want me to talk about, per se. That's how I built what I would say is a massive empire, which I'm very proud of, in general. You have to invest to be successful. And you have to invest wisely is the key thing, not just foolhardily. You go to a seminar and it's like, oh, this person showed me a great piece of equipment. Don't buy it because you don't know anything about it. Supposedly it's going to do this. Don't buy this BIA just because I said. Investigate what it could do for you and how it'll help every single patient. Then you'll say, okay, this is why I'm buying it, because this is what it's going to do. This is how I'm going to pay for it. This is how I'm going to market it. This is how it's going to put money in the bank. So we're looking at all 4 pillars that ultimately will be successful for why somebody will invest in, literally for less than $4,000. People who came to my seminar are going to have 2 massive pieces of equipment. $4,000 will not take very many patients to pay off at all. So it's like within a few months, you'll be awfully happy that you have that piece of equipment. And then you'll find that will increase your referrals because people will want to come and say, oh, tell me if I'm drinking, something simple. What is, you can go to the gym. Well, yeah, you can go to the gym, but the gym is not going to tell you what we're going to tell you. They're not going to understand what it is. They're not going to understand that really, instead of going to see the personal trainer, 3 times a week and drink X water, just X amount of water, we're going to find out if the water's in the right place. And if it isn't, we're going to find out why it's not in the right place. That's how we're going to help you. They're just going to say, this is your muscle mass, this is your body fat mass. All you need to do this, eat this, eat that, which is nice information. But what we have something that's superior to what you're going to get in any of those types of facilities. And it doesn't downplay how important that is, but they're not coming to a medical office to get medical advice specifically about their health that we individualize because everybody's different.
I like it. We're gonna talk to the students in a week, and so I'm gonna make sure they all have your video. And I know you said you wrote 5 books. So what we'll do after is I'll put as many resources as I can under this little video so we can kind of like get more access. But thank you for your time. It was great. I will let you go. And you have a great day.
Okay, I certainly do.
Oh wait,
okay.
I gotta figure out how to stop recording. Okay.
I'm sure you will.
My only job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thom.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.